And coming back to the direct trial, which you mentioned before, which I guess is one of the more prominent trials of yours that's tested the twin cycle hypothesis. It was 15 kilograms, I think you mentioned, that seemed to be an important kind of number, 15 kilograms of weight loss. So that was the typical weight loss that was required for people within that study to get enough fat out of the liver and pancreas to enter remission?
The average weight loss immediately after the low-calorie phase, which in direct was a 12-week phase, the average weight loss was just over 15 kilograms. So, yes, that was an average. But some people needed all of that 15 kilogram weight loss to get rid of their diabetes, because putting on even a small amount of weight allowed the diabetes to come back when we tested subsequently. Other people could manage to put on quite a bit and still be free of the diabetes, so that at 2 years down the line, because DIRECT was a 2-year randomized control trial, 2 years down the line, in the weight loss group, the average weight loss had dropped to 8.8 kilograms. And even so, 1/3 of the entire group was still in remission from the diabetes. So you see, that's how it works. We need to aim for the 15 kilograms weight loss. That will take most people into the range where the chances are they'll be free of diabetes. That has the important effect of demonstrating to everyone concerned the possibilities. So if at, say, 15 kilograms a person is in remission, but then life kicks in and they're distracted with other problems and their weight increases by, say, 3 kilograms, they're going into 12 kilograms. If they're still free of diabetes, well, life goes on, but the chances are that they will just continue to put on a bit of weight, especially if they discover they can put on weight without getting their diabetes back. Suddenly, say at 10.5 kilograms, the doctor says, well, I'm sorry, you've got your diabetes back again. What do you want to do about it? Are you going to lose more weight again? Or I can give you these drugs? Well, you see, the target of 15 kilograms is fairly secure and a good target for most people. And it's also a wake-up call along the lines of get real. You know, how much extra fat do you think you're carrying around? Because most people in our studies have put on more than 15 kilograms than they were when they were in early adult life. So 15 kilograms is not a complete return to a state of youth. It's a return most of the way and will be sufficient to achieve the metabolic goal.
So in DIRECT, you mentioned there was a 12-week low-calorie dietary intervention. Average weight loss was 15 kilograms. So was that average weight loss, Roy, from the 12-week low-calorie intervention? And perhaps you can explain to someone what that kind of looked like if they haven't heard that being explained before. Or was that 15 kilograms achieved through the 2 years by doing this sort of low-calorie cycle multiple times?
No, and this is one of the really important points of our work, that to lose weight, it's much easier to do it in a short, distinct period of time. You've got a short, focused period of time. You can plan when to start it, avoiding birthdays and wedding anniversaries maybe, and you know that, okay, you're going to have to give up certain things, perhaps avoid some parties during that time. So the defined nature of this low-calorie period is quite important. Also, the original reason why I designed this approach to weight loss, to test the counterpoint, to test in the counterpoint study, this twin cycle hypothesis, the original reason was that the old literature pointed out that what they called very low-calorie diets, and they were very low, were not associated with hunger. Now, that was a fascinating detail that has stuck in my mind from the old literature, and so that was one of the reasons I went for it. And indeed, we find that people are very hungry over the first 36 hours, but you just got to tough it out. If you feel too hungry, drink a pint of water. Have a list of things in advance to do, fixing that door on the cupboard, or going out and sorting out whatever in the garden. So that first 36 hours is difficult, but after that, people suddenly find that they're not hungry all the time, despite only taking this diet, which in direct was 4 200-calorie liquid shakes. That's a packet of powder made up in a pint of water. Partly because it's high protein, about 25% protein, it's actually quite satisfying, and it does actually fill you up. That's the recipe for restricting yourself to 800 kilocalories, just 200 per meal. As I say, in direct, we used 4 sachets a day. In our early studies in Newcastle and continuing now, we use what we believe is a better accepted version, which is just 3 shakes a day, but a large plateful of salad foods or non-starchy vegetables. That allows people to enjoy feeling crunch. It eases the matter of this second phase, which is moving from the low-calorie diet back towards normal eating. How do we do that? After Counterpoint, I was surprised when people came to me and said, "Look, Doc, it was actually much easier than I expected going on this low-calorie diet, but it was so difficult coming off it." So we had to design a stepped food reintroduction. So in Counterbalance, we introduced 1 meal and just kept on 2 shakes per day, and then we introduced a second meal a week later and carried on with 1 shake a day, and then finally, after a further couple of weeks, we dropped that final shake. So people gradually got used to how much of normal food to eat, what to eat, and having a blank slate upon which to write new dietary habits is really rather good. And so we can re-educate people, and all of them are primed in advance that when they get back to eating normal food, they can expect to eat only about 3/4 of the amount they were habitually putting on their plate beforehand. That's quite important. They need to know that in advance. Those are all ways that we try and set up the most difficult phase. The most difficult phase is keeping the weight off in the long term. Because if you look at it biologically, you have the same person doing the same things in the same environment, fast food environment, an environment where it's become socially acceptable to eat when you're walking down the street, even, according to Hollywood, to eat when you're talking. Where did that come from? You see, the social change in the last 50 years has been astonishing around food, but that's all part of the obesogenic environment. It's not just the fast food and the availability of food constantly and the lack of satisfying nature of fast food. That's all part of it. But avoiding that and keeping your weight constant, that's a class act, and that's something that we don't have easy answers to, but people who are sufficiently motivated can certainly do it. So that at 5 years from our direct study, these are data that were presented at scientific meetings, they're not quite yet published, but I can say at 5 years, people were still very considerably below their starting weight. The average weight was still 6.1 kilograms below baseline. Now, for a dietary study at 5 years, that's never been achieved before. Now, only those people who kept off an average of 9 kilograms were still in remission at 5 years. But that says it all, because it's a matter of, yes, getting the weight off. But the human difficulty is one that I'm very alive to, and we're constantly working to try and improve this matter of preventing weight regain after this very successful method of losing weight.
What percentage was that, Roy, of the intervention subjects who were able to stay in remission and achieve that 9 kilogram weight loss at 5 years?
Of the people who are in remission at 2 years, it was 26% who are in remission at 5 years. But overall, if we look at the lineup on the starting line, 149 people started off in the weight loss group. Then it was 11% of those 149 people. We lost track of some of them, but we still count them in saying 11%. If we stick to the information we know for definite, then yes, 13% were in remission. So in round figures, around 12%. You might say, but that's not very good. Hey, if we use a drug, we talk about number needed to treat. And a number needed to treat that's quite good would be about 1 in 10, 1 in 12. So if you use a drug, then 1 in 10 people are going to actually benefit from it for the reason that it's prescribed, to prevent a heart attack, for instance. But here we have a simple dietary, lifestyle information method that produces more than 1 in 10 of remission of a disease which causes terrible morbidity and early death. So 12% has got to be set in perspective, and it's good. It's not good enough. We can improve on this. But of course, that is a challenge for medicine and healthcare systems to use this information and to put it to good use.
Yeah, and that 11% or 13% is also not considering the potential benefits that people would have had who did enter remission, who are perhaps not in remission, but surely there is some benefit to improved blood lipids and improved blood glucose for a period of years when you're considering your overall risk of cardiovascular disease, for example.
Yes, I'm pleased you asked me about that, because this is one of the most dramatic findings. Again, as yet unpublished. I hope it'll be published in a few weeks' time, but it has been made public at scientific meetings. If we take that 149 people on the starting line for direct in the weight loss group, 149 in the control group, the risk of any serious illness was halved in those people that undertook the weight loss. So merely starting off on the weight loss, even though some people dropped out quite early, small number, but they did, the overall adverse event rate was half. Now, what was driving that? Well, there were a few less strokes. The numbers weren't large enough to show a difference in heart attacks. We had very few of those. But the main difference was in infections of all kinds, including leading to serious foot infections, and in new cancers. Now, in the people in the weight loss group, the number of cancers that they developed in 5 years was 1. And that was in someone who dropped out early and probably didn't lose weight. The number in the control group that were treated according to conventional best practice was 8. Now, these numbers are small, but hey, a ratio of 8 to 1 of new cancers that we know are related to overweight and obesity, that is a fabulous outcome of the direct study. So, yes, health benefits of weight loss are very considerable. And could I just make a jump forward to knock on the head a silly idea that's been around for a long time? Yo-yo dieting is bad for your health. That's nonsense. There's no consistent information that losing weight and putting it on is bad for overall health in the weight range we're talking about. So we can be sure that people who lose weight and keep it off for a while and over a period of time have reduced their average weight, they will gain hugely, and there will be not only healthier but also happier people.
Howdy, friends. The Proof team and I wish you a happy new year, and we're grateful for your ongoing support of our work. As a special thank you, my team and I have created the Living Proof Longevity Challenge, which begins on February 1st. It's It's a zero-cost, 12-week challenge to build science-backed health habits to optimize your physical and mental well-being, reduce your risk of chronic disease, and help you live longer. Head over to theproof.com/livingproof for more details and to download your copy of the Living Proof Longevity Challenge. To kind of double-click on that concept of yo-yo dieting and coming back to this intervention. So just to be clear, when you looked at the 5-year data, and I think you said there was 26% of people that were in remission, or 26% of people in remission from 2 years were still in remission at 5 years. Is this still a group of people who only did that low-calorie intervention, that 12-week intervention that was 800 kilocalories a day, and they only did that once? They weren't repeating that over the years to come?
If they put on weight, they were offered the possibility of using the low-calorie products again. Because what we discovered in Direct was that people, of course, put on weight during times of stress due to family illness, due to financial reasons. All these factors kick in. And when someone is busy dealing with this, the matter of concentrating on food intake and keeping it down goes out of the window. So we found that the commonest reason for weight regain was a sudden event, which of course passes. And so when that event had passed, we offered people the chance to regain the previous advantage. So that was a process that was running in the background, and in Direct, half of all the participants needed at least one of what we called a rescue package. So yes, this is part of the business of avoiding long-term weight regain. And so if people put on weight, it's not a failure, it's just something to be dealt with. So yes, some people did have short periods of low-calorie intervention to get the weight back down again, but by and large, they were just living entirely ordinary lives, eating ordinary foods, trying to avoid fast foods, and keeping an eye on their weight.
I think you said 36% of the subjects in the intervention group in Direct achieved remission at 2 years, which is remarkable. That's an incredible result to see. But if we flip that statistic just for a moment, and let's think about the individuals. So let's think about the 2 out of 3 individuals who come back and are not in remission. So that's 64%. What are the main reasons that you believe would explain why they didn't achieve remission?
Well, it was really the weight regain that sticks out a mile. So the people who were in remission maintained their weight loss far better than the ones who relapsed. And so that was very obvious, for instance, at the 5-year mark, when the average for the whole group was a weight loss of 6 kilograms. But that was swayed, as it were, by the small group who were in remission, who was still at just under 9 kilograms, 8.9 kilograms weight loss. So if we look at the people who'd lost remission, my rough calculation would be probably about 5.5 kilograms below baseline, compared with 9 to stay in remission over 5 years. So that's how it stacks up. So that's the main reason. And of course, you could look for reasons underlying that. And life stresses are a big matter. Changes to social circumstances, etc. So these are things that affect real people. And as doctors, we just need to advise how best to navigate those. But I think having demonstrated the biology of type 2 diabetes, having shown what a simple condition it is in the managing concept, it helps doctors deal with all these complexities, because life is complex, and I wouldn't suggest for a moment that this was a simple matter for an individual to deal with, but we can see the main factors and deal with them. That's really the exciting consequence.